Florida State has been known as DBU for the past, what is it, Dave? Past since we started this entire thing?
At least.
At least. And last year, DBU was a little off. They were a little bit on, but also we have more additions to the team. So we're talking about defensive backs today on today's edition of Locked On Seminoles. Dave, let's ride.
You are Locked On Seminoles, your daily podcast on the Florida State Seminoles, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome back to another edition of Locked On Seminoles. What's up, everybody? It's your boy Drake here, and today in the stream yard, I got Mr. Davey Wise. David, what's going on, my guy?
Not too much, Drake. It is cold outside. I'm back to weather right now because it is that cold. I don't know if it is right now in South Florida. It never gets cold there, but Drake, it is too cold to exist in New York.
It was a little chilly last week, but we're not doing that. But as always, that we are not a weather podcast. We are the we'd be really actually what would be we would have some great nicknames for that. Stormy weather's over here, but folks, we want to thank each and every single one of you for being Locked On Seminoles for listening each and every single day. And today's episode is brought to you by our title sponsor, our friends over at FanDuel Sportsbook, the official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn today to get started. So, Dave. Last week we did the wide receiver preview, but it was sort of the expectation heading into the year, how they performed, and what we expect from them for next year, for 2023, which next year is this upcoming year. So now we're going to do the same for the rest of the position groups, and we're starting today, or we're continuing today with defensive backs. Dave, DBU, that's been a staple of the Florida State brand. Heading into last year, what did you expect from this defensive back room from players such as Jarrian Jones, a Renardo Green who came on during spring, also with Jammie Robinson who came back last season, and also Akeem Dent who played pretty well at the end of last season?
Yeah. My expectations for this unit. Look, this is going to be a static answer. You can clip this right here and play exactly what I'm about to say.
Or expectations from heading into last season.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can just clip this right now, and we'll replay this for you every year. Save ourselves, save you guys all some time. This is Florida State. I mean, there's a standard at that position, and not just because of the logo and the fact that we've put so many, we've had so many guys be All-Americans and go on to the NFL and have great careers there at the defensive back position. But look, we're in a geographical location where we are just really close to where an awful lot of the defensive back talent in this country develops and comes from. A lot of it's from Florida. A lot of the 4 and 5-star DBs in the country come from Florida. That's just the way it is. So by virtue of that all being here in the state, I have really high expectations for our defensive back recruiting. I have high hope for our teaching of the position in light of the pedigree we have at defensive back. And I have high hopes that, it's just going to work out at the position. I mean, we do this name syndrome thing every year where we go down the defensive back room in particular and look at all the 4 stars and 5 stars. It was going into last year what I considered the most talented position on the team. And I genuinely thought that we would see just some guys step up and make it happen, and it would end up being one of the best units on the team because of course it would be. It's Florida State, and that's the defensive back room.
I mean, the thing is also we did see several players actually do kind of step up, right? And you saw Jammie Robinson still be Jammie Robinson at the safety spot.
We knew that.
Yeah. Well, Jarrian Jones actually played admirably well. Actually, was actually one of your better performing corners for the back half of the season. He was very instrumental in a lot of those kind of limiting opposing offenses to the low amount of points, as well as playing a very great Florida game too as well. And then even though the Oklahoma game, when he got hurt and got out, you saw missing him. And then Greedy Vance, who's someone that I know we all remember the missed interception against Wake Forest, but for the majority of the year, I think you said he was our best graded corner per PFF. Now, I do agree that there are some kind of you see some players that they did struggle like towards the entire year, and overall now was an Amarion Cooper and also Kevin Knowles who took a step back from the previous year. But it was I think you're right. My expectations heading the year I thought it would be a much better group overall, and it just feels like it was very. I think the results were very. I think the best way to put it is hit and miss. It was inconsistent overall for the position group.
Ironic, but good way to put it, I think. You see that stat thrown around an awful lot about the defensive back room um, that we were number 1 in the ACC and I think top 5 in the country or I think we were number 1 in Power 5 or something in uh, pass yards allowed per game. And
Mhm.
that's a really simple, but I think a
Misleading.
misleading statistic because it was a lot of there was a lot that went into that, and it wasn't just because, like, we had lockdown corners. That said, like to your point, uh, absolutely, guys like Greedy Vance and Renardo Green played better than I thought they would. I think I was more surprised that Akeem Dent didn't flourish. Like you said, he got better towards the end of the year. But that look, the safety spot is just I I don't remember the last time at Florida State that we didn't have like 4 deep at the position. It just feels like we always have highly talented, highly skilled options, and not that we don't, but and we're gonna get to this when we talk about this year's. Going into last year, I thought we had more of a known quantity for sure at the safety spot with Jammie Robinson here. That's not gonna be
Mhm.
the case going into next year, but yeah, it just look, we had some young guys step up too. But just overall, I think there's a reason that the only position group on the team that saw a coaching change this offseason was the defensive back room, most talented position group. Um, clearly Mike Norvell sees we have so much talent there. Like everybody agrees these kids are all, blue chip players in the defensive back room. So why aren't they playing like all blue chip players? Um, I think we got it. I think we got enough here on the roster to have that kind of room. I'm really looking forward to see what this group's going to do under new coaching. But going into last year, I didn't think it was a realistic scenario that we're talking about having to change our defensive backs coach because that room is so underperforming. Not that it did necessarily so underperform, but just not what you expect, I think. Not what we expected.
No, it wasn't. I think it's one of the things also where when you discuss it, it's the question that you always ask when it comes to this, where it's like do you blame the players or do you blame the coaching or the instruction? And got to the point where you're right. You knew the players, you saw them like these kids are really talented, and they've also been in the system for what was year 3 last year, and you saw how they were unable to run certain concepts or they struggled with I think it was the bunch set that was the big bugaboo all season long. Can't believe I used the word bugaboo. I can't stand that word, but here we are now with that. And all like defensively too, it was also the philosophy of hey, do this bend don't break kind of mentality too, like leaving everything in front of you. Hence the passing yard stat, limiting as much of plays. But then the problem is you can't keep bending, and then you end up always in the red zone allowing a field goal. Or hey, here's the one touchdown every 3 to 4 trips when it comes to that overall. So I think you're right with that. And then for next time we'll talk about everything else. But Dave, before we do that, we need to talk about friends over at FanDuel. That's right, folks. FanDuel is the new official sponsor of the Locked On Network, and we couldn't be happier to actually have them as our new sports betting partner for Locked On because they're the number one sportsbook in America. And if you're new to FanDuel, that's even better. They have so many great features that make betting on sports fun and super easy. As always, let's do a prop bet for the Fade Dave segment of the week of the millennia of the year. Dave, I know we talked already yesterday. You believe the Eagles are frauds. We're not going to rehash that
Yeah.
because I'm not even going to dignify that. I'm not going to dignify that. Super Bowl MVP odds. Right now, you have Patrick Mahomes at plus 120. You got Travis Kelce at plus 1300. Jalen Hurts plus 125.
Don't
AJ
read me.
Brown plus 1400.
Don't read me
Miles
Eagles
Sanders plus
players.
2400. What do you think is the best play here, honestly, when it comes to Super Bowl MVP? Remember also that I think Patrick Mahomes already won Super Bowl MVP, and it's really hard for players to win it multiple times.
Yeah, that's not really ask Tom Brady. But
He's only won, I think once.
he won it twice, but could be wrong. Anywho, um, there's only one player that can win the MVP in this game because the Eagles can't win this game. And it's gonna be Patrick Mahomes. I mean, unless unless Kelsey goes for like 200 yards, which is possible. It's I don't like putting money on bets that like I'm sure aren't going to happen. Like I at least like there to be a chance. So the Patrick Mahomes, the odds are not going to be the best odds you're going to get, but it's the only bet I'd even feel mildly comfortable making.
So you wouldn't even flirt with maybe Travis Kelce a plus 1300? Like you don't even like those?
Now,
Like those?
if it was 13,000, yeah, no, 1300 now doesn't
13.
move the needle.
13,000. Jesus Christ. And yeah, Dave is actually right. Not only won it once, twice, but he won it 3, 4, and 5 times. This is me being the Patriots hater, Tom Brady hater. Not even Tom Brady hater, I don't that much. But folks, please head on over to FanDuel now. Head on over to FanDuel today. Use FanDuel.com/locked on. That's LOCKEDON to claim your no sweat first bet on Super Bowl 57. That's FanDuel.com/locked on. LOCKEDON, and make everyone more with FanDuel, the official sportsbook of the NFL. Okay, Dave. Now we are looking towards next season. The offseason has been happening. We have emerged with a hire. You were discussing before the hire of Pat Surtain to replace Mr. Coach Marcus Woodson, as he's now the defensive coordinator, I believe, over at Arkansas. Fentrell Cypress has joined the fold from Virginia, the number 1 cornerback in the ACC, top 5 cornerback in the country per not only PFF, but I think most advanced metrics and also scout-wise. He's a kid's a stud. You beat out LSU, Ohio State, Clemson for him, places that also have been developing and pumping up first-round talents and then secondary level to the NFL. Dave, what have you made first of the offseason kind of approach, and also the not only the restructuring of the roster of the room, but also the restructuring of who's heading that room?
Yeah, I think the Fentrell Cypress take was an interesting acknowledgement by the coaching staff. Because I think you'll find you'll find some people in our fan base who get irritated at the notion that our defensive back room wasn't good enough last year. I don't understand that personally because clearly it wasn't. The standard is the standard. That doesn't change. And it's a case of you're going to take the best defensive back in the transfer portal, regardless of whether you need him on the roster. But the reality is we really, really needed him on the roster. And I'll tell you why. We lost Jammie Robinson in the portal. Going into this season, I would have told, or not in the portal, sorry, to the NFL draft. I would have told you Jammie Robinson was the only true sure thing I knew about the defensive back room. Not in terms of who'd be starting, but exactly what I'm getting out of that player. He was remarkably consistent and remarkably durable the last 2 seasons for us. Right now, I'm here to tell you, the only thing I know for sure about this defensive back room is Fentrell Cypress. I know he's a lockdown corner. I know that air yards and explosive play stat should probably be similar this year. Because you're going to have to throw at the other side of the field, and we're going to get to this in 2 seconds, but you're going to have options over there. And the question is going to be, who the hell is replacing Jammie Robinson? Because we haven't grabbed anybody out of the portal. That's a replacement for Jammie Robinson. He must be on the roster already. And I'm going to just throw out a name here.
Oh, I know what you're going to say.
A lot of people forget he's on the roster. We have a new defensive backs coach, as you like to point out. Come on, Coach Surtain. Let's do it. Travis Jay's still here, ladies and gentlemen. That kid is talented. I don't know. I don't think you can replace Jammie Robinson is the point. I think, you have guys like Shyheim Brown who really performed well for a young player last year. I think you're excited about the potential, but that's what you're looking at here with this group once again, because if the coaching has been the issue, then that means we haven't seen the best of this group and we don't know a lot about it. This group is one of the biggest question marks on the team. It is one of the most talented position groups, if not the most talented on the team, yet again. And yet, I don't know what to tell you about this room. We're going to find out a lot more about young players. And I think we have the most we know right now is from what's coming back from our own team is Akeem Dent. Akeem Dent performed poorly for a good part of the season last year, and he turned it on towards the end of the season. So I've
other way around.
Right.
Yeah. That's what confused you last time too. It's funny because last year was the opposite.
That's right.
This past year was that. Yeah.
I have high hopes that his consistency will improve with technique and coaching. And if that's the case, then I do feel good again at the safety spot. I don't think he will be Jammie Robinson, but the corners, we have plenty of options at that spot. Renardo Green is back. Jarrian Jones. Is Jarrian Jones still here?
Yes, he is. Yeah, he's going to use when we're starting quarters. I'm excited.
Perfect.
I'm actually excited for that too because actually he looks demonstrably better like after this past year, and I think that definitely with someone like Pat Surtain to develop him, it's going to be huge. And same thing with Renardo Green. Like Renardo Green was your best corner last year. I know
Yeah,
PFS is otherwise, but if you watch the
I
damn
agree.
games, sorry, no offense PFF, but yeah, the Renardo Green, he's Wolverine. He's Weapon X. He actually was your pure shutdown corner. And Akeem, I think the problem with Akeem, he needs to stay fully healthy because you could tell he was not fully healthy towards the end of the year. And I'm already pretty sure that he's actually probably going to be nursing probably some issues, probably not issues, probably some injury over the course of spring practice, if I remember correctly. So to me, like that's going to be huge to actually have someone like Patrick Surtain develop the entire room, especially with Azaria Thomas, Kevin Knowles, and Amari Cooper being as young as they are.
Yeah, I'm glad you said Azaria Thomas. That's the name I'm keeping an eye on. With Sam McCall obviously out, I think a lot of people were pissed off about that because they thought that he was going to be the better of the two between him and Azaria Thomas.
I mean,
I mean, Thomas flourished last year.
mhm.
That kid played his butt off for a true freshman, and I really do think the sky's the limit for him. I wouldn't be surprised if second half of the season he ends up with one of the starting spots. And if that's the case, I think that's less of an indictment about the performance of other guys like Jarrian Jones than it is about the massive amount of skill that or potential and talent that that kid has. So yet again, another example, talent level in that room is just fine. We're not going to go against like opposing receiver cores that are just immensely out talent this defensive back room. That's not going to happen. You get this technique down with this room, like you said, um,
Mhm.
Jarrian Jones, Renardo Green, Greedy Vance, and Zaire Thomas. I feel pretty good about our chances if those guys play just at expectations.
No, I completely agree with you, and it's something that where it just feels right that basically someone a defensive back that not only you and myself have seen play at the collegiate level, but also we've seen some play collegiately. He's also being another, I think probably a top 5 corner in the NFL, and someone that we've seen actually demonstrably be great at what he does over at St. Thomas Aquinas. Sorry, not St. Thomas, American Heritage. Sorry, those are rival schools. I gotta be better with that. But overall, to me, this is a defensive back room that is loaded with talent, loaded with players, and quite frankly, Dave, you know what else is actually loaded with all this? Actually, no, we don't even have an ad break. So you know what, folks, we will take a quick commercial break, and we'll be back with the final segment as Dave takes us home with basically his Dave segment of the week of the Day of the Millennia. Okay, Dave, we have reached the finish line. I'm going to pass the baton off to you. How do you want to close this discussion out, or do you want to go somewhere differently and send the folks home on a happy way?
Now let's talk about this. What is the biggest wild card at the defensive back room to you? Like, imagine a world, and this isn't like all that hard
In
to
a
imagine,
world.
right? In a world,
In a world.
Jammie Robinson, like I said, was like if some players on Madden have like a injury or durability rating of like 100,
Mhm.
and they just don't get injured. At the safety spot, that's a violent position. You are every play, basically a heat-seeking missile,
Yeah.
and Jammie Robinson wasn't exactly like a slouch that avoided contact. So his ability to stay on the field was one of his biggest assets. Not that he didn't play well when he was out there, because he did. What is what is the biggest wild card for this defensive back room to you? And imagine a world where Akeem Dent gets hurt. Like what does that position look like to you? Well, it's
Dude.
not that, dude. It's not that hard to imagine. You only have two safeties on the field. Like, do we have three safeties right now on the
Well,
roster?
Shaheem Brown,
Yes.
obviously. We have Shaheem Brown there.
Mhm.
And then you probably bring up honestly, and this is where I think your question kind of does make a little bit of sense. I know some people were discussing maybe putting Renardo Green back at safety. I think that's the wrong decision
Agreed.
because you saw him flourish and stay fully healthy. Keyword to your earlier point about how safety, like you're asking a safety now to go up in the box, go all over the place, be like a chess piece nowadays. And if you've already seen how the kid, he's finally has first full healthy season. Don't put much more on his plate than actually he needs to have. But maybe after him, you probably go with someone like Hammett. Because the problem is you also changed Brendan Gann from safety to linebacker, who, when we do a preview, I do think that he actually has a bright future at that spot. So I think it's something that you definitely do need to go out to the portal and grab at least one more kid. And I feel like I'm forgetting somebody though.
Are you
I
sure?
think I am. Well, I'm not saying Travis J. Like the thing with I think Travis J has all the talent in the world to be actually play very good here. And quite frankly, quite honestly, I think you're right in a sense that if there's a defensive backs coach out there besides the top tier DB coaches that we know of, that why wouldn't Patrick Surtain be one of them? I feel like he's someone that actually can maximize the talent out of a kid like him. So to me personally, I think maybe it's those two. Maybe they're right. Maybe the answer is already there, and that's why we haven't seen actually basically some like more, I guess, more aggressive recruiting for the safety spot in particular when it comes to filling out the roster.
Yeah, that just the one thing about that that's curious to me, and this is why I still wouldn't be shocked to see a late portal safety come into the mix because like you were able to come up with a couple guys that you said, okay, well maybe that's good enough, and those two guys, I think maybe it could be good enough, but we play three safeties sometimes. Like that happened plenty of times this year.
Mhm.
There's plenty of times where they get a break and a backup comes in, or they get banged up. They have to sit out a series. I, yeah, I don't know that we know what that looks like. Is my point,
Mhm.
and that's a little bit of a scary proposition for a defense that I don't know if it's going to be the same next year as it was this year. This year, like you said, was bend but don't break. You can't bend and break. You got to do one of the two. I mean, ideally, you don't want to break, but if you're going to break, I don't know, don't let them methodically drive down the field and take up the whole clock or something. I don't know. I don't know. This isn't like a this isn't a theories on football, but regardless, I don't know. I think that is the biggest question mark to me on this team is who is gonna step up into that second safety spot and who is the third guy up in that room? I think the cornerback room, we have plenty of ideas. We have plenty of
Mhm.
options and ideas. The safety spot, not really.
Yeah, and also, I forgot too that we lost Jarquez McClellan to basically eligibility. And Jarquez McClellan, number one, I know that he wasn't the sexiest pick, but also he was a player that you asked him to do his job, and he did his damn job without making any mistakes. And that's really what you want for a depth piece. And like you're saying right now, I'm looking at our defensive back room right now. Like you're saying, Jammie Robinson gone, Jarquez McClellan gone, Malik Feaster gone to the portal. Same thing with McCall. Same thing with Demore Tate. You look down the list and just you have to ask yourself like who else would you put actually at that spot? And
Hinton
ev
Kirkland?
I'm about to say, like, do you ask one of the freshmen to do that? Because that's not I don't think that's I mean, we saw Isaiah Thomas, like, if they feel that highly about a KJ Kirkland, that wouldn't be that bad of a situation. And KJ Kirkland Kenan Kirkland to me, like, he definitely has the talent for that. Quindarius Jones, that's someone that I know a lot of people are very high on because he's super athletic, but I don't think I don't think he's played football for that long in his career, so maybe you have to wait on that too as well, or maybe it's the Conrad Hussey kid, and I don't think he's there yet, but over summer, he learns everything else, and he was a top-rated safety. I
Yeah,
mean, he's the one that you fought off Penn State and
right.
Miami for. So, honestly, maybe you let the young boys play.
Yeah, it's possible, but that just kind of goes to the point where I don't think there's another position group on this team that I'm as unsure of what the
Maybe
depth.
Patrick Surtain plays safety. He's like, "Hey, listen, let me just,
Right.
re-enroll some credits in real quick. I'll do the player manager role like in baseball in a little bit."
Right. But that this speaks to how important it is for Akeem Dent to be consistent and be reliable and be on the field and not injured. Uh, that is going to make all of the difference for this defense. If Akeem Dent is not playing up to the standard of Akeem Dent and what we expect of him in that position, I, I don't know. You're gonna have to change your defensive philosophy because again, we're going into a win now year. All the chips are on the table. We have to win. This is Jordan Travis's last year, and a lot of last years for the best players on our team. So if you're gonna win now, you're gonna have to play a defensive style that A complements your offense and B limits opponents' points. Obviously, that goes without saying. But if you're gonna do that, safety play is your last resort. And you didn't see an awful lot of those plays that just beat the top of the defense off this year. It didn't happen a lot. I don't like the way I said that, but
No, I know, I know.
that just took the top off the defense. It didn't happen a ton. Jammie Robinson, you would be sure if a pass was going to get behind a cornerback, at least Jamie's there. So you're going to have to hope Travis Jay steps up and becomes that option for you. And that Akeem Dent is, if nothing else, consistent and dependable. Because otherwise, I don't know, you're going to have to win some shootouts, I think.
Consistent, dependable, or maybe, just maybe, with the defensive line being fully healthy for a full season, that could actually probably help out the secondary as a whole. And you know what helps us out each and every single day, Dave? Our lovely, lovely listeners, because, folks, we get to do this each and every single day because y'all make Locked On Seminoles your first listen. And, folks, we love being here. Now, Dave, please take us home.
Everybody, like Drake said, we love you, and we do thank you for being here. For our podcast, find us anywhere you find podcasts or your podcast, Spotify, Stitcher, Apple, Google Play, all of the places as far as I'm aware. For the YouTube, give the video a like if you could, please. Takes 2 seconds. Subscribe to the channel. Also takes 2 seconds. Ding the little bell. Turn your notifications on. You will find out when our episodes drop. And lastly, leave us a comment. Give me your depth chart in the defensive back room, especially at the safety spot. Give me a 2 deep. Challenge yourself into a 3 deep at the safety spot if you would. Really curious to see what that looks like.
And, folks, for Dave, this was Drake, and we'll see y'all next time on Locked On Seminoles. Take care, everybody.
Seminoles.